The line we'd followed from Grosmont in the last episode had survived the arrival of steam locomotives, but ahead lay a problem Victorian engineers could never truly solve. And to reach Goathland, trains had to climb one of the steepest sections anywhere on the railway. For almost 30 years, they tried everything, but in the end, that single obstacle forced the railway onto an entirely new route.
Hi there, we're continuing our story of the deviation of the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. We've been following the old George Stephenson 1830s railway all the way from Grosmont. So we'll see you back down the bottom at Beck Hole and we'll explain to you what we're going to be doing in this episode.
Before we tackle the incline itself, here's a quick reminder of the railway we're following. Long before today's North Yorkshire Moors Railway became one of Britain's best-loved heritage railways, trains travelled this way on the Whitby and Pickering Railway. Opened in 1836, it was originally horse-worked, before later adapting to steam locomotives. To reach Goathland, every train had to climb this remarkable roped-worked incline, one of the most challenging sections anywhere on the line. It was an extraordinary feat of Victorian engineering, but less than 30 years later, much of this original route was abandoned. And today, we're finding out why.
So Beck Hole, and this is the bottom of the incline. Beck Hole Incline, Goathland Incline, I've seen it referred to as. Now this, I believe this is a holiday let these days, the old incline cottage. And this is where it starts to climb. Now there's a very interesting story on how this incline was worked. It's all to do with water.
Before steam engines took over, the incline relied on an ingenious but surprisingly simple system. At the summit stood a large water tank mounted on railway wheels. Filled with water, the tank was allowed to descend the incline, its weight hauling railway vehicles up the hill. At Beck Hole, the water was emptied into the beck before the empty tank was hauled all the way back to the summit by horse, ready for the next journey. Remarkably, this was the responsibility of a local farmer, and if he was needed to return the tank, a white flag was raised at Beck Hole. The journey took around 4.5 minutes, carrying trains through what contemporary accounts described as an avenue of trees. It was an ingenious solution, but it was a system designed for a horse-worked railway.
We find ourselves, Phil, walking up yet another incline.
Another one, eh?
Again, I use that phrase, walking up. We could have done this the other way around. I mean, we've been walking down this incline. Yeah. Never mind. We always joke about it, but this one, so what have we got? Where's my notes gone? 1,500 yards long incline, this, which is 1,400 metres.
One in, was it 10 or 15 average grading?
That's right, average grading, 1 in 15 and 1 in 10 at its most pungent. Steepest. Pungent. And it was a rope-worked incline. And obviously we've just been saying about the methods using the water in the earlier days.
The water system worked remarkably well for a horse railway, but the railway was changing. Steam locomotives were beginning to replace horses across Britain, and the old gravity system was becoming increasingly restrictive. So in 1846, the railway made a significant investment. The original gravity-operated water butt system was abandoned and replaced by a stationary steam engine at the summit of the incline.
We're stopping halfway up this incline. Just to tell you a little bit of a story while we're up here. Very welcome break, if I'm being honest. Just being joking to Phil. 10 years ago, I had a few nights away in Goathland with the wife. I came out for a run one morning and I ran down this incline and I ran back up it. I don't know how I used to do that. But interesting thing about this was the incline. It did find a little bit of use after it closed in 1865, and they were doing some trials.
Yeah, well, it was a foreign interest, wasn't it? See if it could get up. Was it Alpine routes or was it just?
Yeah, I can't remember the country now.
No, I can't remember, but it was apparently quite successful. They brought the loco in, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they had to run it up here for what, so many days, was it? And it was successful. I mean, we've had this before, haven't we? On the old One of the Fritchley, remember the one with the funny machine that had legs on that used to go up the incline between Fritchley and Christ? That's a similar thing when they tried the loco. But I don't think this was one with legs though, was it?
And it was so successful. I understand they took the locomotive straight onto the boat and exported it. Oh yeah, just to mention as well, this was a single track incline with a passing place. Said that when they were doing the stagecoach type wagons that that we saw in that diagram, they were typically only doing one coach at a time on here.
You say it's not much as regards income. I bet you only fits 6 or 7 people inside there. Don't seem a very profitable affair just to be pulling one carriage around, is it?
No.
Replacing the water butt with a steam engine was a major improvement. It made the incline faster, more reliable and better suited to the growing railway, but it didn't solve the real problem. Rather than continue fighting the incline, the North Eastern Railway chose a completely different solution in 1865. Instead of trying to conquer the hill, they built an entirely new railway around it.
You can feel how much we've climbed. Look at comparison to the landscape in the background. But here we are, just about to top out at the top of the incline.
Is that a new verb? Top out?
Top out.
What is the actual correct term? To crest?
To crest, yeah. To pass out.
I don't know about that.
So at the top here then, Goathland Station. Not the Goathland Station that you might be familiar with, that's been made very, very well known by TV and film, Heartbeat and what's that little guy? Oh, Gary Potter. Is it? I don't know.
You tell me.
I'm not sure. But Goathland Station, so yeah, there was a station on this line, look. Gate there, the old ticket office. Is this the old overseer's cottage?
Yeah, I think it's overseer's cottage because the actual ticket office, if there was one, would have been up near the station further up, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that reeks of old building, doesn't it, look?
It's an old Whitby and Pickering building, isn't it that? Yeah, you can't really see it naturally from the path, unfortunately. That's quite a bit of history, that. Quite a bit of history with that. We're not far away. What are you looking at here, Phil?
Well, that looks very old as well, look. Not that it's forced to be connected to this, but that's an old building, isn't it, look?
Yeah, like a little row of cottages, yeah. Possibly railway, yeah. What era?
Late Victorian, I guess.
And I mentioned, didn't I, post 1846, they moved from the water butt system to a stationary steam engine. And that was here then, was it, Phil?
Yep, it was that pretty much where that tree is. I mean, if you then turn left, it's almost a straight line, look. We've kind of come away a bit, haven't we, look?
We have, yeah.
Once we topped the incline, is that what you called it?
Topped the incline.
Topped it, yep.
There is this masonry here. Like where did we see it now? The top of some incline in Crumford and IP. We used to find remnants like this in the old engine houses, didn't we?
Well, you very often see repurposed bricks and stone. Sometimes they're sleepers, aren't they? As well, if you look closely at some of them. Obviously, the brake drum arrangement, I mean, are they implying it was in that well we've just said was the engine house? But of course, the engine house may have been put in the same place when it wasn't necessary anymore.
Well, that does back up what you've just been saying now.
Yeah, because there's the tree, look. What's that there then? Is that the winding drum?
It's a turntable for steam locos.
I did say there was. I thought there was a steam engine. Yeah. Okay.
So obviously rope works from there, and then from here it's onwards, isn't it? That's it. So on the level.
Actually, them buildings I said earlier, just say there, former railway buildings. So quite possibly, yeah.
By the 1860s, this incline had served the railway for almost 30 years, but operating it was never without risk. In 1864, just 1 year before the new deviation opened, the incline rope snapped. The carriages ran away down the hill before overturning at Beck Hole, killing 2 people and injuring 13 others. Health and safety wasn't the reason the railway was diverted, but it underlined the challenges of operating one of Britain's steepest early railways. For many years, the summit of the incline appeared to have lost almost all trace of its railway past. But in 2017, archaeologists set out to change that. Their excavation uncovered the foundations of the stationary engine house that replaced the original water-powered system, along with remains of the locomotive turntable.
Perhaps most remarkably, they also rediscovered the large reservoir that had once supplied water for the incline's original gravity-powered operation and presumably for the steam engine house that replaced it. We'll just show you on the map where the old Goathland station is in relation to the current day Goathland station.
If you've ever travelled on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, let me know in the comments. And before today, did you know that an older railway was hiding alongside it for a good chunk of the way?
Couple of well-known sites in Goathland, or Aidensfield as it's known to Heartbeat fans. Aidensfield garage there. So where was our old line then? It ran just down the side here, did it? Is this the line here, Phil?
Yeah.
Right past two of Goathland's tourist attractions then. So is this road on the actual alignment of the old railway then?
Yep, it certainly is. Makes a nice change from uneven gravel and mud, doesn't it?
Bit of variation, yeah. Now that first section we've been walking on has been quite celebrated as the rail trail, hasn't it, between Goathland and Grosmont and Goathland. This bit, it's like it's ended at Goathland. Is it going to be a case where we don't really see the railway being recognised on this section now?
Well, this could be any road in Britain, let's be honest. It's only because you just informed people where we are. This doesn't look like a railway, does it?
No. Oh. We've got a feature coming up, Phil.
Have we?
Yeah, well, we've got a curve coming up.
Oh, I was going to say, it's about time something happened.
Yeah, very, very straight since Goathland. But you've just been commenting now, because we have been walking in this cutting, but like we've said with the bridges, very, very generous width.
Overly engineered, maybe is the word.
Do you think it was built with? I mean, we've got two ditches either side. Do you think it was built with kind of drainage either side as well?
It's possible, but I mean, you know, when you look at it now and how wide it is, if you're not thinking straight, you might think, well, they could have doubled this and made it heavy for heavy engines. But of course, it's the incline. It was the beef, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The new alignment was moved because of the incline, wasn't it?
Couldn't see the line when I've just looked through that opening, but it's only there. But there's still quite a height difference between us and that, Phil. We've still got quite a lot of climbing to do on that to get up to the level of us.
Yeah.
Quite
Good
surprised.
point. Good point.
So we're at the end of the section that we're able to walk on today. I'm assuming this would be a level crossing over the road here.
Yeah, but I don't know if it warranted a crossing keeper's cottage. That looks a bit hefty to be that, doesn't it?
What is this building then?
Yeah, it's a bit strange. A bit of a coincidence, isn't it?
It's a bit out in the wilderness, and the only thing here is the railway. And it never would have been a junction, Phil, in front where the two lines met, because one replaced the other. So
that's true.
You know,
can't say we're going to the junction, can you?
No,
it weren't.
So there we go. We can see the track bed there. Look, that's it. And the line you can see on the left-hand side. Look, the current day line, and it's still climbing. But they do look a little bit more like they are starting to meet altitude-wise now, Phil. The last bit of engineering then before the old line joins into the new line.
Standing here, it's possible to see almost 2 centuries of the railway in a single view. To one side, the original Whitby and Pickering Railway, built for horses, rope-worked inclines, and the engineering of the 1830s. To the other, the deviation, built for larger locomotives, gentler gradients, and the future of the railway. 2 generations of railway engineering meeting at exactly the same point.
I enjoyed that. That was a nice little walk. You know what, the thing that surprised me most about this, what we've seen today, was this was very, very early railway, and it was kind of abandoned very early as well. But the scale that the engineering was built to really surprised me. The size of the bridges and, you know, the embankments and things like that.
Well, sometimes they always anticipate that the traffic growth, don't they? They purposely over-engineer. But you can't imagine them over-engineering this when it was just basically horse-driven, can you, really?
So let me know, have you walked this trail? Have you explored this before? Great story. Always like to hear people. We always like to see people correct us and fill in those gaps.
Oh, I love
don't
it,
we,
yeah.
Phil?
The original Whitby and Pickering Railway transformed travel across the North York Moors and helped shape communities like Grosmont, Beck Hole and Goathland. But the very incline that once made the railway possible, eventually it became its greatest weakness. And rather than conquer it, Victorian engineers chose an entirely new route. And today, every train on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway enthusiastically powers up that replacement instead. The original route of the railway still survives, but only if you're prepared to go looking for it.
So cheers for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, see you.
Ta-ra.